whatever we do, that will be Ugra Karma only. Um, so, just like that example, we consider the devotee from Mayapur. He went from Srimad Bhagavatam class for Pathal without hearing and chanting. What you are doing, you will do only Ugra Karma only. So, best is to the morning program we do in the morning. That is to remember Krishna, so that the other time of the day when we do physical service, we can continue to remember Krishna.
Good. Okay. Few more points.
We were discussing how we can get out of this material world, and we discussed how by material punya we cannot get out of this material world. Only bhakti can induce bhakti. From you quoted examples of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, 3 types of Agyat Sukritis like Bhoga Unmukh Sukriti, Moksha Unmukh Sukriti, and Bhakti Unmukh Sukriti. And then in the end of the 7th chapter, Krishna used some terms like Brahma, Adi Bhutam, Adi Devam, and then Arjuna becomes confused and he asks Krishna what's the meaning of those terms. And then in third shloka, he discusses about the 3 terms, and in 4th shloka, he discusses about the 4 terms. And then at the end, he discusses how one can go back to him. And then we discuss this shloka of
okay, 5 and 6 verses.
Whatever you remember at the time of death will determine your next destination.
Okay. Thank you.
We discussed at length about whether external activity is more important or internal mood is more important. Then we have discussed about that 7th verse of 8th chapter where it says, "My Ashritam Manobuddhir." I said, Lord says, Lord said to invest you offer your mind and intelligence to me. So you have discussed about the purification or that bhakti works as much as the time we invest our consciousness in that elements of activities. So then you said how Prabhupada has very expertly presented it, the entire system of our Krishna consciousness or ISKCON, wherein we try to invest our mind and intelligence in Krishna for the initial part of the day, maybe 4:30 to 9:30. And then whatever activities you do in the due course of the day, we'll follow that, our mind being applied in Krishna.
Right. So we have to make that conscious endeavor to engage our mind and intelligence in Krishna's service. I'm doing this for Krishna. Mai arpita mano buddhi. Okay, so with the mind, we have to make conscious decisions to please Krishna. And with the intelligence, one needs to... What's the important function of the intelligence? Discrimination, determination. So with the intelligence, one has to be determined to perform one's activities for the purpose of pleasing Krishna. Otherwise, if that consciousness is not there, the activities will simply become mechanical activities. And simply by such mechanical activities, there won't be much progress on the devotional path, because devotional path requires devotion. And devotion means the conscious endeavor to try to please Guru and Krishna. One has to make that conscious endeavor. Whatever activity one is doing, that conscious endeavor to please has to be there. Because at our level, it is it is not natural. We don't have natural spontaneous love. So therefore, one has to make that conscious endeavor. Mai arpita mano buddhi. One has to engage one's mind and intelligence in Krishna's service. One has to make that endeavor. Then there will be some quality in the service, thinking that, yes, I want to please Guru and Krishna. So when one is trying to please the object of love, then one will do the activity with the right consciousness and the right quality, because one wants to please. And we will discuss these points further in the 9th chapter more elaborately. Okay, now let's proceed with the 8th verse, which is the last verse in the section, where once again Krishna is telling Arjuna to always remember him. 8th verse, please recite. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanyagaminah paramam purusham divyam yati partanu chintayan. He who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha, is sure to reach me. Please read the purport.
Purport. In this verse, Lord Krishna traces the importance of the remembering him. One's memory of Krishna is reviewed by chanting the Maha Mantra Hare Krishna. By this practice of chanting and hearing the sound vibration of the Supreme Lord, one's ear, tongue, and mind are engaged. This mystic meditation is very easy to practice and it helps one attain the Supreme Lord. Purusham means enjoyer. Although living entities belong to marginal energy of the Supreme Lord, they are in material contamination. They think themselves enjoyer, but they are not the supreme enjoyer. Here it is clearly stated that the supreme enjoyer is the supreme personality of Godhead. In his different manifestation and plenary expansions as a Narayan, Vasudev, etc. The devotee can constantly think of the object of worship, the Supreme Lord, in any of his futures, Narayan, Krishna, Ram, etc. By chanting Hare Krishna, this practice will purify him, and at the end of his life, due to his constant chanting, he will be transferred to the kingdom of God. Yoga practice is a meditation on the super soul within. Similarly, by chanting Hare Krishna, one fixes his mind always on the Supreme Lord. The mind is fickle and therefore it is necessary to engage the mind by force to think of Krishna. One example often given is that of the caterpillar that thinks of becoming a butterfly and so is transformed into a butterfly in same life. Similarly, if we constantly think of Krishna, it is certain that at the end of our lives, we shall have the same bodily constitution as a Krishna.
So here he's saying Abhyasa Yoga. Abhyasa Yoga. Proper translates Abhyasa Yoga as what? Practice. So it requires practice to remember Krishna. And therefore, Prabhupada is writing, the mind is fickle and therefore it is necessary to engage the mind by force to think of Krishna. By force. So it's not going to happen automatically. By force. That means the practice has to be there because the tendency of the mind is chanchalam hi mana Krishna. That is the tendency of the mind. So the mind is not going to naturally fix on Krishna. So therefore one has to use some force to pull the mind and focus, whether it is during our chanting or our reading or hearing. At all times, one has to apply that force. And so therefore, if we don't put ourselves in that conducive environment where we can focus, then it's very easy to get distracted. So therefore, while chanting also, if we are putting ourselves in an environment where we have a good potential to be distracted, if we're outside somewhere viewing the scenery and everything else, so already the mind is distracted. On top of that, we put ourselves in a situation where we'll be distracted, then what's going to happen? So therefore, it's important that we try to focus. Just yesterday, I was reading Giraj Maharaj's book, Dancing White Elephants. So there he writes that how, this is in 1970, Amritsar. He writes that how Yamuna Mataji, even in those early days, she would sit in one place, back erect, eyes closed, totally focused on the chanting. Practically as if nothing else exists in the world. So that would be her quality of chanting, even in those early days. So she was so focused in all her activities. So in her chanting, hearing, When it came to hearing Srila Prabhupada's lectures, she would be right in front to absorb every word of what Srila Prabhupada would speak. And needless to say about her absorption in her cooking. So everything that she did, she was absorbed, and therefore every service that she did, it was high class, first class service she did. Why? Because there was so much of absorption, focus in whatever she was doing. So one has to make that endeavor. One has to make that endeavor. So therefore, abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa na anyagamina. Chetasa, the mind and the intelligence, the consciousness, na anyagamina, without being deviated. So the consciousness should not be deviated. And then, so the focus is on whom? Parapam Purusham Divyam. So the focus is on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if one does this practice, the result will be Yati Partha Anuchintayan. Again he says, one will achieve the Supreme Lord if one Anuchintayan. Anu means constantly. If one is constantly thinking of Krishna, then one will be able to achieve the Supreme Lord Krishna. So in this way, the practice has to be there, the practice to focus. So till one comes to the higher stages of devotional service, the practice is essential. Okay. So that is the end of this section, where basically Krishna is speaking about, he's answering Arjuna's questions and speaking about remembering him. Now, from the next verse onwards, he speaks about Yoga Mishra Bhakti. The ninth verse, sometimes some devotees put it in the previous section, some devotees put it in the next section, any case. So now, because in the eighth verse he said that one should constantly remember Krishna, so in the ninth verse, he's describing some ways by which one can remember him. Kavim Puranam Manushasitaram Anoraniyam Sam Anusmaredyaha Sarvasya Dataramachintya Rupam Aditya Vannam Tamasa Parastat. One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental beyond this material nature. As Prabhupada begins his purport by saying, the process of thinking of the Supreme is mentioned in this verse. So how to think of the Supreme, because that's our goal. The goal is to think of the Supreme. So how to think, the process of thinking. The foremost point is that he's not impersonal or void. So therefore, for the impersonalist to think of something that is impersonal, no form, is very difficult. Therefore, then they have to imagine some form, or they have to imagine some light or this or that, and try to meditate on something, because it's impractical to simply meditate on something which is no form. So therefore, the important point is that he's not impersonal or void. Otherwise, he cannot have all these qualities. One cannot meditate on something impersonal or void. That is very difficult. The process of thinking of Krishna, however, is very easy and is factually stated herein. So in many lectures, Srila Prabhupada describes that that's the benefit of the Archa Vigraha, Archana, worshipping the deity. So we have a form. So if we see the form, we can meditate on the form, and that's how we can remember the form. So Srila Prabhupada says that, so if we are having darshan of the form of the Lord regularly, then when we close our eyes, then that form will be able to remember that form. So therefore, it's important that we have regular darshan of the deity. So the more we have darshan of the deity, then more we can remember him. The more we can remember him. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada emphasized this point of having regular darshan of the deity, so that we can think of his form, we can meditate on him, and that's how we can remember him. Now here, Krishna himself is giving a few qualities by which we can remember him. The first one is Kavim. Kavim means one who knows everything or omniscient. Okay, Prabhupada writes that the Lord is Kavi, that is, he knows past, present, and future, and therefore knows everything. Okay, so can you think of some pastime of Krishna in relation to this quality of Kavi? We can't hear everything because there's a lot of.
In Bhagavad Gita, only Krishna tells the history of Bhagavad Gita. When Arjuna asks that we both are of the same age, how you have instructed this science to sun god? Krishna says, Bahuni me vatitani janmani tavacha Arjuna.
Correct. So Krishna remembered everything about his past births. Okay, good. What else? Some other examples to show that Krishna is Kavi. He knows everything, past, present, future.
Prabhuji, that Akshay Patra incidents with Draupadi.
Yes.
That verse Krishna tell, Nato eva jatu nasam. Never was there a time they were not there. He's telling about past. They were exist in past also, and they will exist in future also.
Okay, fine. Okay, good example. Krishna is telling about all the kings, about himself, about Arjuna. They were then past, present, future. Okay, good.
When Krishna is appearing in the jail of Kamsa, he is reminding his parents of all the previous births they had taken and how he had come in different forms in those past lifetimes.
Okay, good. Yes, that's also correct. Good example.
When Krishna was explaining the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, then also he told that you have also taken many births, but and I have also, but you have not remembered. I can remember all.
Okay, fine.
Harishna.
Ah.
So there is in Bhagavad Gita, Aham Sarvasya Prabhu Matta Sarvam Pravartate.
ठीक है?
That's okay.
Okay. Huh.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did that Brahmana who came to prepare prasad. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is reminding all his life that you have served me every time. Like
Correct. Okay, good.
During Mahaprakash Lila, how Mahaprabhu regarding one devotee, he remembered one past time.
Okay, he remembers about the past. Okay, good. Then in Krishna's pastime, the Brahmana sons, who took them? Yes, Mahavishnu was taking. So Arjuna did not know why the sons are dying, but Krishna knew. So in this way, Krishna knows everything. He's Kavi. So somebody may say, but maybe some, of course, not exactly like, but even the great sages, they are also omniscient. Even the great sages could be Trikalagya, like Vyasadeva. He knows past, present, and future. So therefore Krishna says, okay, some others may be omniscient, but I am Puranam. I am the oldest. I am eternal. And similarly, he says, Anushasidaram. He says, I'm the controller, I'm controlling everything. And he's smaller than the smallest. Anor, Aniyam, some. Then somebody may say, okay, he's only small like the Atma. No, he's not only small, but he can also become bigger than the biggest. So he can be smaller than the smallest, he can be bigger than the biggest. Anything he can become. And he is Sarvasya Dhataram, he's the maintainer of everything. So in this way, we can have pastimes for each of these different qualities. And in this way, we can remember Krishna. So Krishna is giving us some ways and means by which we can remember him. So the more we read about him, we hear about him, then the more we can remember him, we can remember his different qualities and all that. So right, Prabhupada writes that Therefore, he is called smaller than the smallest. As the supreme, he can enter into the atom and into the heart of the smallest and control him as the super soul. Although so small, he is still all pervading and is maintaining everything. By him, all these planetary systems are sustained. So the word achintya, inconceivable, is very significant in this connection. God's energy is beyond our conception, beyond our thinking jurisdiction, and is therefore called inconceivable, achintya. Who can argue this point? He pervades this material world and yet is beyond it. We cannot comprehend even this material world, which is insignificant compared to the spiritual world. So how can we comprehend what is beyond? Achintya means that which is beyond this material world, that which our argument, logic, and philosophical speculation cannot touch. That which is inconceivable. Therefore, intelligent persons avoiding useless argument and speculation should accept what is stated in scriptures like the Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam and follow the principles they set down. This will lead one to understanding. Right? This is an important point. Therefore, intelligent persons avoiding useless argument and speculation should accept what is stated in scriptures like the Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam. So sometimes we tend to get into arguments and speculation because we think that with our, as Prabhupada says, tiny brains, we should be able to understand everything. That's a problem. And if I'm not able to understand, then I cannot accept. No. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada often quoted Jiva Goswami saying that the first thing to accept about the absolute truth is Achintya Shakti, inconceivable potencies. Therefore, it's not that we will be able to understand everything. Even Brahma, Shiva, Narada, even they cannot understand everything about the Lord unless the Lord allows them to understand. And then what to speak of us, tiny, insignificant jivas in Kali Yuga. And still sometimes we think that I should be able to understand everything. Then all I'll accept. So we have to accept this fact that there are some things I cannot understand. We can try to understand to some limit, but it's not that I have to understand everything. So therefore, there's no point in getting into useless arguments and speculation. And just because something is not answered, then people lose faith. And some people even go to the extent of leaving the movement and leaving the process because I cannot understand some things. So we know the well-known pastime of Purushottam who left the movement because Prabhupada was saying that man never landed on the moon. Good news. So whatever it is. So, but the point is, sometimes these things happened in the past. Just because somebody cannot understand something, one loses faith and leaves. That means one thinks that I'm so intelligent that I should be able to understand everything. So therefore, the fundamental principle in the practice of bhakti is humility. So when one is humble, there's no problem. If one cannot understand something, one who's humble will think, okay, what is my qualification to understand? How much ever I can understand, I'll try. That's all. So similarly, the whole controversy about how the jiva came from the spiritual world and all that, all these same category. What is my capacity to understand these things? They're beyond my capacity. So I cannot even understand everything about this. That's what Prabhupada is writing here. I cannot even understand everything about this tiny material world. And I think I should know what happened in the spiritual world, when, and that too when. Nobody knows when. One does not even know that. Yet one thinks I should understand that. And only when I understand that, my practice of Krishna consciousness has meaning. Just see the foolishness. One cannot even understand how one's own body is working in the first place. This much also one cannot understand. What is one's capacity to understand? Prabhupada says in so many lectures, you put food in the mouth, you don't know how it is getting digested. Even that much we cannot understand. We cannot understand what are the stars in the sky. This also we cannot understand. And then one thinks that unless I know how I came from the spiritual world some unlimited number of years before, unless I understand that, oh, there's something wrong in the philosophy. What sense does it make? So, anyway, so that's the point. So, achintya rupam, achintya rupam. So, but then we can try to remember Krishna by some of these qualities, and then by remembering him, one can get purified, and then one will get some understanding. Okay, so now he begins to discuss about, more specifically, about Yoga Mishra Bhakti. But before that, let's read a few quotes of Srila Prabhupada. Okay, this is basically based on that verse, of course, Tasmat Sarveshwar. Any case, read.
Deity worship. This is the ultimate end of Krishna consciousness. And that Antakale, at the time of death, at the end of life, Antakale cha mama, unto me, eva, certainly, smaran, remembering. The deity worship especially meant for this purpose, so that you can go on worshipping the deity of Radha and Krishna. Naturally, you will be practiced to think of Radha, Krishna, always within your heart.
Yes, so this point we already. Okay.
Mam anusmara yuddhacha. Therefore, we have given time 16 rounds. But you are not Haridas Thakur that you will be able to chant whole day and night. If without working, if you chant, that is the highest state. That you cannot do. Then you sleep. That's all. The minimum quantity, 16 rounds chant. And that will take not more than 2 hours. And other 22 hours, you be always busy in Krishna's activities. That is required. This is upasate.
Okay, so yesterday we were discussing this point, the balanced program. And this is what Srila Prabhupada wanted.
So work is there, just like Arjun. Arjun is fighting. That is also Krishna consciousness. Mam anusmara yuddhacha. Krishna said, you chant, you remember me, at the same time fight. He never said that simply fight or simply chant, because in the material world, that is not possible. Therefore, chanting must be there, but at the same time, you have to work how to continue this movement. The movement requires energy.
Okay. Okay, there's a question here. Read the question.
Sometimes devotees say, my devotional service is so difficult. I am unwell and I have so many problems. I wish Krishna would just take me right now. What would you say to such a devotee? What can you say about his or her attitude?
Okay, so this is based on the second verse purport. So somebody read second verse purport, last paragraph.
Now the word prayanakale from there, Guruji. Now the word prayanakale in this verse is very significant because whatever we do in life will be tested at the time of death.
Prabhupada often quoted what? Bhajan karo, sadhan karo, mrityu jaan le. Yes.
Arjuna is very anxious to know of those who are constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness. What should be their position at the final moment? At the time of death, all the bodily functions are disrupted and the mind is not in a proper condition. Thus, disturbed by the bodily situation, one may be one may not be able to remember the Supreme Lord. Maharaj Kulasekhar, a great devotee, prays, "My dear Lord, just now I am quite healthy, and it is better that I die immediately, so that the swan of my mind can seek entrance at the stem of your lotus feet." The metaphor is used because the swan, a bird of the water, takes pleasure in digging into the lotus flowers. Its sporting proclivity is to enter the lotus flower. Maharaj Kulasekhar says to the Lord, "Now my mind is undisturbed and I am quite healthy. If I die immediately, thinking of your lotus feet, then I am sure that my performance of your devotional service will become perfect. But if I have to wait for my natural death, then I do not know what will happen, because at the time the bodily functions will be disrupted. My throat will be choked up, and I do not know whether I shall be able to chant your name. Better let me die immediately." Arjuna questions how a person can fix his mind on Krishna's lotus feet at such a time.
So this question is based on this. So just like Maharaj Kulashekar is saying, I want to die immediately so that my mind can fix on the lotus feet of Krishna. Now I'm healthy. So if some devotee says like this, what will you say? Hmm.
Just like in the passion of Narada Muni, when that Narada Muni saw the first time that got the darshan of Vishnu, then Vishnu told him that you are still not become pakka nahi hua hai, matlab he was not fully
Purified.
purified. So he was trying to again get, but he was not getting. So we are not still purified, and if we go already from that first time, we can learn Lord doesn't want without purification there. So first we have to become fully purified, and when Lord wants, we'll go. That should be our attitude.
Okay, that is correct. So what will you tell him? You'll tell him the same thing, that past time.
Yes, you have to wait. Just get purified. Don't hurry. Lord's mercy only we can go. Without our endeavor, what we can do.
Okay, good. Somebody else?
Like here in this state, when Kulashekar Maharaj is speaking this verse, it is out of the ecstasy that is coming and out of the bhav which is coming out. But at the same time, in our parampara also, the means like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says, "Mama Janmani Janmanisha," that I wish to serve you lifetime after lifetime. So here, at current stage, we might not be so much purified. We are still struggling with the anarthas. That our mind is even in the healthy state, we are not able to concentrate on the holy name properly. So what to speak of the other things? So better we can first try to perfect under the guidance of the superiors. And then eventually Lord will take care of what is to be done.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So from the statement, it appears that the devotee is praying out of frustration.
Exactly.
I am unwell and I have many problems. So that is his impetus for going back to Godhead.
Not bad, isn't it?
So yeah, so basically frustration is not the, I mean, then it becomes like a mukti tendency, as we say, that I don't want problems. I want a problem-free life. That is what is the impetus. But generally devotees don't pray like that. Devotees pray just like we hear in the prayers of Mother Kunti, that let the problems come again and again if that is helping me to remember you. So that way it is not a prayer which is coming out of devotion. Because again, what Sudhamsu Prabhu said, that Kulasekhar Maharaj is praying that right now my mind is already fixed. Addaiva me visato manasa rajams. But in our case, it is not. We are in that state of unwell and having problems. So then we are not, neither we are fit to go back to Godhead at this point, nor Lord would do that, as Prabhu said also.
All right.
So it's first we have to purify and come to that state.
So this is basically a very selfish tendency. Correct? But the qualification to go to the spiritual world is what? To become what? Selfless. That is the meaning of love, correct? The meaning of love is what? Krishnendriya Pritivanch. So therefore, the first qualification to enter the spiritual world is to become selfless. So, but this is a very selfish motive. I'm not well, I'm having problems, so therefore I want to go. So it's a selfish motive. And I think so in our previous classes we did quote from Srila Prabhupada's diary, March 6, 1966. Remember? Somebody remembers? March 6, 1966, what Srila Prabhupada wrote in his diary. What do you say, Vamsidhar Prabhu? You remember? You have a good memory, right? This is one day prior to Gaur Purnima. As,
Hare Krishna, Dandavat.
Although I'm struggling in New York and all my god brothers are celebrating Gaur Punya festival in Mayapur and Vrindavan, nonetheless, I am also feeling the same because I am following the order of my spiritual master.
and for doing so,
And for
I'm ready to go to hell.
Oh.
So that was Srila Prabhupada's consciousness. For fulfilling the instruction of the spiritual master, he is ready to undergo so much of inconvenience to the extent of even going to hell, if that is what is required. And of course, Srila Prabhupada practically showed that. Of course, when Prabhupada was staying in the Bowery, it was nothing less than hell. Prabhupada was actually living in such a situation. So, that is pure devotional service. Okay, fine. And that is, okay. So now the next section is Yoga Mishra Bhakti. So in this, so Yoga Mishra Bhakti, it is just like we already discussed Pranani Bhuta Bhakti in the 7th chapter, Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, where the predominant factor is Bhakti. What is Pradhan? Bhakti. But there is some contamination. So here, essentially, he's performing Bhakti, he's a Bhakta, he's a devotee, but at the same time, he thinks some elements of Ashtanga Yoga are required to control the mind and senses. So that is his contamination. And so therefore, he is a devotee. So therefore, he wants to achieve Krishna, he thinks of Krishna, all that is there. But at the same time, he includes some elements of Ashtanga Yoga within the practices of his Bhakti. So that is Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Okay, 9th verse. No, 10th verse. Prayanakale manasachalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva bruvor madhye pranamavesha samyak satam param purushamupeti divyam. For one who at the time of death fixes his life air between the eyebrows and by the strength of yoga with an undeviating mind engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion, will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. Prayana Kale. So Prayana Kale, at the time of death, Manasa Achalena, Achalena, without being deviated, Achal, without being deviated. The mind is fixed in Bhakti, Bhaktya, Bhaktya Yukta. And how his mind is fixed? Yoga Balena, by the strength of yoga. By the strength of yoga. And in this case, of course, both the elements are there. There's Bhakti Yoga as well as Ashtanga Yoga. By the strength of that yoga, he is able to fix his mind on the Supreme. And he fixes his life air between the two eyebrows. Bhruvo Madhye Pranam. So the prana he's fixing between the eyebrows. And in this way, he is fixing his consciousness on Saha, Saha, he, Tam, Param Purusham. So here, why Krishna is not saying Mam, he's saying Tam. Hmm? Hmm?
To surrender unto him, where we have discussed that because Lord he keeps himself aloof from this material creation, which is directly which is managed by Purusha avatars.
Correct. So
So
he's
in-
talking about Paramatma basically.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is meditation on Paramatma. That is what the Ashtanga Yogi does, correct?
Yes.
The Ashtanga Yogi meditates on Paramatma. So therefore, Krishna is using the word Satam Param Purusham. So meditating, remembering the Supreme Lord, transcendental Purusham, Supreme Lord. So if one does that, so at the time of leaving the body, if at the time of leaving the body with an undeviated mind, one fixes the mind on the super soul within the heart, and at the same time is controlling the pranas, fixing them between the eyebrows. So you see, so there is a mixture. Bhakti is there because it's meditating on the Supreme Lord. So bhakti is there, but at the same time there are some elements of Ashtanga Yoga. But then Krishna says that finally he will definitely achieve me. In this verse, it is clearly stated that at the time of death, the mind must be fixed in devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For those practiced in yoga, it is recommended that they raise the life force between the eyebrows to the Agnya Chakra. The practice of the Shat Chakra Yoga involving meditation on the 6 chakras is suggested here. A pure devotee does not practice such yoga, but because he is always engaged in Krishna consciousness at death, he can remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his grace. We were discussing this point yesterday. One can remember the Supreme Lord only by his grace, not only by my endeavor. I need to put the endeavor, but ultimately I'll be able to remember him by his grace. And this is explained in verse 14. The particular use of the word yoga balena is significant in this verse because without practice of yoga, whether Shat Chakra Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, one cannot come to this transcendental state of being at the time of death. One cannot suddenly remember the Supreme Lord at death. One must have practiced some yoga system, especially the system of Bhakti Yoga. Since one's mind at death is very disturbed, one should practice transcendence through yoga during one's life. Then he goes into some more details of the practice. Yadaksharam Veda Vido Vadanti Vishanti Yad Yatayo Vitaraga Yad Ichanto Brahmacharyam Charanti Tatte Padam Sangrahena Pravakshe. Persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter Omkar and who are great sages in the renounced order, enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now briefly explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation. So these are the practices of the impersonalists or those who are Ashtanga yogis. So they also have these practices of studying the Vedas, uttering Omkar and all that, and practicing very strict celibacy. So Prabhupada is talking about, again, the Shat Chakra Yoga. Lord Krishna has recommended to Arjuna the practice of Shat Chakra Yoga, in which one places the air of life between the eyebrows. Taking it for granted that Arjuna might not know how to practice Shat Chakra Yoga, the Lord explains the process in the following verses. The Lord says that Brahman, although one without a second, has various manifestations features. Especially for the impersonal, the Akshara or Omkar, the syllable Om is identical with Brahman. Krishna here explains the impersonal Brahman into which the renounced order of sages enter. And then he's talking about brahmacharya and all that, and the various varnas and ashramas. And then towards the end of the purport, again, Prabhupada says, therefore, Lord Chaitanya has announced before that, unless one practices celibacy, advancement in spiritual life is very difficult. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya has announced, according to the scripture injunctions for this age of Kali, that in this age, the process of realizing the Supreme is possible, that in this age, no process of realizing the Supreme is possible except the chanting of the holy names of Lord Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Ram, Hare Hare. And you can see this both in the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, wherever there's a discussion of other yoga systems, Prabhupada makes this point, that in this age, all this is not possible. Ultimately, it is only through Sankirtan Yajna. 12th verse. Sarvadvarani sanyamya manoridhi nirudhya cha Murdhyanyadhyatmana pranam astito yoga dharanam. The yogic situation is the detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga. Okay, so this is pratyahar. Prabhupada writes, this practice is called pratyahar, withdrawing the senses from the sense objects. The ahar of the senses is withdrawn. That's called pratyahar. That's one of the stages of Ashtanga Yoga. So the senses should not be allowed to engage in sense gratification. In this way, the mind focuses on the super soul in the heart, and the life force is raised to the top of the head. Like it says in the 6th chapter, this has already been described. Again, Prabhupada says, the best process is Krishna consciousness. If one is always able to fix his mind on Krishna in devotional service, it's very easy for him to remain in an undisturbed transcendental trance or in samadhi. And then the last verse of the section, Om ityekaksharam brahma vyaharan mam anusmaran ya prayati tyajan deham sa yati paramam gatim. After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. Okay, so if one is chanting Omkar, and then the important thing is he's remembering the Supreme Lord, Anusmaran, Mam Anusmaran. So because he's remembering the Supreme Lord, therefore, ya prayati tyajandeham sa yati paramam gatim. So he attains the supreme destination of the spiritual planets. So that means he achieves Salokya. So he achieves the same planet as the Supreme Lord, the spiritual planets. So, because the important point is remembering the Supreme Lord. Again, of course, Prabhupada makes the point, the impersonal sound of Krishna is Om, but the sound Hare Krishna contains Om. The chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is clearly recommended for this age. So if one quits his body at the end of life, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, he certainly reaches one of the spiritual planets according to the mode of his practice. The devotees of Krishna enter the Krishna planet, Golok Vrindavan. For the personalists, there are also innumerable other planets known as the Vaikuntha planets in the spiritual sky, whereas the impersonalists remain in the Brahma Jyoti. Okay, so this is the section on Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Now, the next section, 14 to 16, he speaks about pure devotional service. So you can see how Krishna is going very systematically. Initially, he is speaking about Mishra Bhakti or the Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti. So he spoke about Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti. Then he spoke about Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Then he's speaking about Shuddha Bhakti. Of course, the first verse of the 7th chapter is also Shuddha Bhakti. 14th verse. Ananya cheta satatam yo mam smarati nityashah tasyaham sulabha partha nityayuktasya yoginah. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. Okay, please read the first paragraph of the purport.
This verse especially describes the final destination attained by the unalloyed devotees who serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Bhakti Yoga. Previous verses have mentioned 4 different kinds of devotees: the distressed, the inquisitive, those who seek material gain, the speculative philosophers. Different processes of liberation have also been described: Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Hatha Yoga. The principles of these yoga systems have some bhakti added, but this verse particularly mentions pure Bhakti Yoga without any mixture of Jnana, Karma, or Hatha. As described by the word Anya Cheta, in pure Bhakti Yoga, the devotees desire nothing but Krishna. A pure devotee does not desire promotion to heavenly planets, nor does he seek oneness with the Brahmajyoti or salvation or liberation from material entanglement. A pure devotee does not desire anything. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the pure devotee is called Nishkama, which means he has no desire for self-interest. Perfect peace belongs to him alone, not to them who strive for personal gain. Whereas Jnana Yogi, Karma Yogi, or Hatha Yogi has his own selfish interests, a perfect devotee has no desire other than to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the Lord says that for anyone who is unflinchingly devoted to him, he is easy to attain.
So that is the meaning of Ananya Chetah Satatam. So Ananya Cheta means no other contamination. No other contamination of karma, jnana, yoga, worship of devatas, this, that, nothing. Ananya Chetaha, fixed in only trying to please Krishna. The goal is only Krishna. Okay, so no other contamination. So that is pure devotional service. As Rupa Goswami is also saying, Jnana, Karma, Adi, Anavritam. There, Adi indicates yoga and all these other things. So therefore, that is the standard of pure devotional service. There should be no other contamination, no other deviation. So not that a devotee thinks that sometimes I need to worship devatas for some reasons. Okay, for some reasons, worship of the devatas is good to get rid of something inauspicious in my life or whatever. Too much dependence on astrology, astrologers, and this and that. So many things happen these days. So therefore, that is the standard of pure devotional service. A devotee does not depend on anyone except Krishna. So therefore, whatever is conducive to pure devotional service, to pleasing Guru and Krishna, one accepts only that and nothing else. That is the meaning of Ananya Chetaha. Satatam, always. So always one has to be in that consciousness that I'm only dependent on Krishna. So that is the standard. We see so many examples in the Bhagavatam. Prahlad Maharaj went through so many difficulties. He didn't take shelter of anyone else, correct? He didn't, did he at any time call out to some devatas or something like that? Please protect me. No. His consciousness was fixed. So that is the standard. Similarly, Ambarish Maharaj, when the demon came. So that is the standard of pure devotional service. One does not take shelter of anyone else. Ananya Cheta Satatam, always. Yo mam smarati nityashaha, one who always remembers me. And that's what Srila Prabhupada is explaining in the next paragraph. A pure devotee always engaged in devotional service to Krishna in one of his various personal features. Krishna has various plenary expansions, incarnations, Ramanas. A devotee can choose to fix his mind in loving service to any of these transcendental forms of the Supreme Lord. Such a devotee meets with none of the problems that plague the practitioners of other yogas. Bhakti yoga is very simple and pure and easy to perform. One can begin simply by chanting Hare Krishna. The Lord is merciful to all, but as we have already explained, is especially inclined towards those who always serve him without deviation. The Lord helps such devotees in various ways. Right, so it's quoting from the Katha Upanishad. Yam evesha vrinute tena labhyas tasyesha atma vrinute tanam sva. One who is fully surrendered and engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord can understand the Supreme Lord as he is. Dadami buddhi yogam tam. Okay. Now, then after that, he is saying, Tasyaham sulabha partha nitya yuktasya yoginaha. So, yo mam smarati nityasha. That is what Srila Prabhupada is explaining in the next paragraph. Okay, read the next paragraph.
The special qualification?
The
special qualification of the pure devotee is that he is always thinking of Krishna without deviation and without considering the time or place. There should be no impediments. He should be able to carry out his service anywhere and at any time. Some say that the devotee should remain in holy places like Vrindavan or some holy town where the Lord lived, but a pure devotee can live anywhere and can create the atmosphere of Vrindavan by his devotional service. It was Sri Advaita Acharya who told Lord Chaitanya, wherever you are, O Lord, there is Vrindavan.
Okay, so devotional service can be practiced anywhere, everywhere, and at any place, any time one is able to remember Krishna. That is the meaning of Yo Mam Smarati Nityashaha. So therefore, Prabhupada is explaining that it's not necessary that one should only be in Vrindavan, Mayapur, or some place like that, and only there I can remember Krishna, practice devotional service. No. So therefore, in the Chatushloki Bhagavatam also it is said, Sarvatra Sarvada. Devotional service can be practiced by anyone, at any place, at any time. So devotional service can be practiced at any time. So right from the womb of the mother till the point of death. So who practiced devotional service in the womb of the mother? Prahlad Maharaj. Yes, of course, Parikshit Maharaj, he had the darshan of the Supreme Lord. Prahlad Maharaj, he actively performed devotional service by hearing. And then who practiced devotional service almost at the time of death? No, Bhishma was always a pure devotee. Huh? Katvanga, of course. That's, huh?
Parikshit Maharaj.
Yes, Ajamil. Ajamil is the example of somebody who practiced devotional service. He began his practice literally. Of course, in the young age, he performed something, but then he literally began his performance of devotional service in his old age. Right? He went to Haridwar and there he began his practice. So that's how devotional service can be practiced right from within the womb till old age. One is almost about to die, and any time in between. So devotional service can be practiced at any time, at any place. Srila Prabhupada showed that anyone from any part of the world can practice devotional service, any caste, creed, color, religion, doesn't matter. Everyone can practice devotional service. And of course, in the more recent times, we all know the story of the salted bread, how those devotees in, which place was that? No, yes, Armenia. So even in the jail, they didn't take that as an excuse not to chant. Good excuse, right? We don't have beads only. How to chant? No beads. But they didn't take that as an excuse. They made beads out of the dried bread and continued to chant. So that's the determination of the devotee. Yo mam smarati nityashaha. Always, anywhere one is ready to practice. And you know the story of the devotees who went to jail at Juhu. I told this, right? In Juhu. So in Juhu, after the temple opening, so even though Mr. N died, but still there were many envious elements and his friends and accomplices were there. And so there was this one municipal councillor. What is his name? Starting with M. Yes, Matre, correct. So he was a good friend of Mr. Nair. And so he was always waiting for a chance to find some fault with the devotees. And then one day, some man came and then he stole some chappal. And then the man who was the owner of the chappal, not chappal actually, some very costly shoes, very costly shoes. And so that man got in an argument with the chowkidar. And then the chowkidar, so it became heated up. The chowkidar became angry. He took an iron rod and bam, he hit on the man and the man died on the spot. So then these envious elements, they got a good chance to find faults with the devotees. And of course, there's elaborate description of that, how immediately there were at that time, there were many tenants living in that property. They were also all envious people. And so they came to attack and then they called all their friends. You know how in these people, you know how mob tendency. So immediately so many people came, and of course the Western devotees, many of them, they were all very young at that time and very able-bodied. So many of them were beating them and throwing them out of the temple. Of course, they got frightened. Some of them left, but then big mobs started coming. They had to close the gates of the temple. Big drama happened. And then the news went to this Matre. And so now he got the chance. So immediately the next day, he sent police. He sent police to the temple. Of course, the police came with the intention to simply find out exactly what happened. No, they didn't come with that intention, but at least that's what the devotees thought. The devotees thought, okay, they want to find out. But then this Matre, he told the police to actually arrest the devotees without even filing a complaint. So the devotees were put in the van, almost about 14 or 15 of them, including Sridhar Maharaj. So all of them were brought to directly to the jail. No, without any trial, without any hearing, court case, nothing. They were just brought to the jail. And they were put in the jail cell along with so many other criminals. So because the devotees were almost 15 in number, so somehow they convinced the other prisoners to vacate one jail cell and adjust in the other jail cell so that they could have one room exclusively for themselves. So somehow they agreed. And so they had this one jail cell only for the devotees. And then from next day onwards, everything was normal in the jail cell. So in the jail cell early in the morning, as usual, Mangalarti started. Of course, there were no deities, no photos, no instruments, nothing. Nothing was there. But still, at least one can sing. Correct? So one devotee was singing, another devotee was performing aarti. Everything was happening. And one devotee was taking the ghee lamp around. And all the others were honoring the ghee lamp also. Everything was happening. And so much so that even the other prisoners started attending the aarti. And that jail cell became like a temple. So much so that even the policemen used to put their shoes outside before entering. Just see the effect. And then, of course, initially they said you have to accept the jail food. But then devotees said, no, we cannot accept it. We'll starve, but we won't take. So jail authorities got frightened. Something happens to these Western people here, we'll land in trouble. So they said, okay, you bring. So then they started getting prasadam from the temple. Initially only for those devotees. Then the quantity started increasing gradually. They started doing food for life inside the jail. And then after some time, along with the prasadam, books also started coming. Then book distribution also within the jail. So what was missing? Nothing. So like this for 1 month, they stayed in that jail. 1 month. Of course, the condition of the toilets and all that was horrible. That is another thing. But in any case, the temple program never stopped even in the jail. And so after 1 month, then there was actual trial. There was hearing in the court. And then after the hearing in the court, then two people were convicted. So one was the Chaukidar and I think so one other devotee was convicted in that. And all the other devotees were released after 1 month. So then when they were leaving, His Honor Sridhar Maharaj, he commented that those were the best days of my life. So that's pure devotional service. Yo mam smarati nityashaha. So wherever a devotee may be, he continues his performance of devotional service. In heaven or in hell or in jail or anywhere, it does not matter. So therefore, first verse, I mean not first canto, second chapter, 6th verse. Savai pumsam parudharmo yato bhakti radokshaje ahaituki apratihata means no interruption. There cannot be any material interruption to one's practice of devotional service. So the practice of devotional service goes on wherever one may be. So recently I was hearing, as you may know, that sometime last year, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, he was admitted in the ICU for his heart problems. So one of the devotees who was serving Maharaj in the hospital, he was telling me that even in the ICU, so even in the ICU, Maharaj was, of course, always very eager to get up and do something. But then the doctors and nurses would always tell him, no, you cannot get up, you cannot sit, you have to lie down. But even in that condition, early in the morning, when it was time for Mangalarti, Maharaj would wake up and he would attend Mangalarti online. So this devotee was telling me, so he would attend the first Mangalarti at Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi in Vrindavan at 4:10. That was the first Aarti Maharaj would attend. Then from there, he would come to Mayapur. In 4:30 Mangalarti, he would attend at Mayapur. Then Narsimha Aarti, everything. Tulsi Aarti, whole morning program, Maharaj would attend even in the ICU. Think about it. And of course, these devotees keep telling me, in Delhi also, Maharaj is always so eager to get up, go to the altar, do Mangalarti, even though doctors tell him, no, you cannot do it, you have to take rest, but Maharaj is so eager. So that is pure devotional service. Amazing example, right in front of our eyes. So you can see that. So not that, oh, I'm in ICU, I can't attend. When one is not in ICU, when one is perfectly healthy, one is reluctant sometimes. So you can see the enthusiasm of these great souls. Even in the ICU. So I was thinking, and when I had COVID, I was not in ICU, but I didn't do that. I didn't attend Mangalarti. So, but you can see. So this is Yo Mam Smarati Nityasha, always, wherever one is. So that is Yo Mam Smarati Nityasha. Tasya Aham, for such a person. So you can see in many verses, Krishna always gives terms and conditions. Benefits are very wonderful, but always terms and conditions applied. So if somebody is in this consciousness, Ananya Cheta Satatam, Yo Mam Smarati Nityasha, then the result is Tasyaham Sulabha. For such a person, I'm easy to obtain. So one has to pay the price. To obtain that, one has to pay the price. And then again he says, Nitya Yuktasya Yogina. I'm easy to obtain. Why? Because of his constant engagement in devotional service. Nitya Yuktasya Yogina. Yogina. So therefore, Prabhupada explains in the next paragraph that how that means established in yoga in one of the various relationships with the Supreme Lord. Okay, read the next paragraph. Hey, you have been reading quite a lot, Baba. Be merciful on others also.
As indicated by the words Satatam and Nityasha, which mean always, regularly, or every day. A pure devotee constantly remembers Krishna and meditates upon him. These are qualifications of the pure devotee for whom the Lord is most easily attainable. Bhakti Yoga is the system that the Gita recommends above all others. Generally, the Bhakti Yogas are engaged in 5 different ways. Shanta Bhakta, engaged in devotional service in neutrality. Dasya Bhakta, engaged in devotional service as a servant. Sakhya Bhakta, engaged as a friend. Vatsala Bhakta, engaged as parent. And Madhurya Bhakta, engaged as a conjugal lover of the Supreme Lord. In any of these ways, the pure devotee is always constantly engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Lord and cannot forget the Supreme Lord. And so for him, the Lord is easily attained. A pure devotee cannot forget the Supreme Lord for a moment, and similarly, the Supreme Lord cannot forget his pure devotee for a moment. This is the great blessing of the Krishna consciousness process of the chanting the Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Okay, so Nitya Yuktasi Yogina. So he establishes a relationship with Krishna in one of the 5 rasas. And as you can see, Prabhupada is writing Satatam and Nityasha, which means always, regularly, or every day. Every day. So, okay, I didn't put that here. I think. Okay, fine. So in any case, so Vishwanath Thakur here, and also, and other acharyas also, commenting on this verse, as well as commenting on Smartavya Satatam Vishnu. There also the word Satatam is coming. So in both these places, the acharyas comment that the word Satatam does not mean every second or every moment. It means every day. That's what Prabhupada is also saying here. Always, regularly, or every day. Though, of course, towards the end of the purport, Prabhupada says that the pure devotee cannot forget the Supreme Lord for a moment. So both are applicable. Now, this always, regularly, or every day especially refers to the sadhakas. Because they explain that if a sadhaka is told that you must remember Krishna every second, they will lose faith in the practice of bhakti. They will think, this is not possible for me. How can I remember every second? Forget it. I won't practice. So therefore, the acharyas are mercifully saying, okay, that may not be possible. At least during some time of the day, you try to remember Krishna regularly every day. And that is what we were discussing yesterday. That at least some time of the day, every day, one must devote to exclusive remembrance of Krishna. So it may not be possible every second, but at least some time every day, there must be exclusive remembrance of Krishna. At least that much we must do. So if we don't do that much also, then remembrance of Krishna becomes very difficult. And so therefore we find that for those who don't take this remembrance of Krishna, or especially for us, the morning program, where there should be exclusive remembrance of Krishna without deviation. So if one doesn't take that seriously, then we find, therefore, then devotees find great challenges in their spiritual practices. Because remembrance of Krishna then will become very difficult. And if remembrance of Krishna becomes difficult, then somebody is waiting. Who? Yes, Maya is waiting. Oh, you can't remember Krishna, remember me. Obvious. If one can't remember Krishna, one will be forced to become entangled by the material energy. That is but obvious. And so therefore, one has to take this remembrance of Krishna very seriously. At least for specific time of the day. This is a concession which the acharyas are mercifully giving to the sadhakas. And at least that much we have to take seriously. No, we want more concession. Already so much concession has been given. Now we want more concession now. It doesn't work that way. So therefore, that exclusive remembrance of Krishna, at least for some part of the day, is something which is very essential. Okay, so in this way, if one practices pure devotional service, what is the result? Mamupetya punarjanma dukkalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmana samsiddhim paramam gataha. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world which is full of miseries because they have attained the highest perfection. Purport?
Since this temporary material world is full of the miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death, naturally he who achieves the highest perfection and attains the supreme planet Krishna Loka, Goloka, Vrindavan, does not wish to return. The supreme planet is described in Vedic literature as Avyakta and Akshara and Param Gati. In other words, that planet is beyond our material vision and it is inexplicable, but it is the highest goal and the destination for Mahatmas, great souls. The Mahatmas receives transcendental message from the realized devotees and thus gradually develop devotional service in Krishna consciousness and become so absorbed in transcendental service that they no longer desire elevation to any of the material planets, nor do they even want to be transferred to any spiritual planet. They only want Krishna and Krishna's association and nothing else. That is the highest perfection of life. This verse specifically mentions the personalist devotee of the Supreme Lord Krishna. These devotees in Krishna consciousness achieve the highest perfection of life. In other words, they are the supreme souls.
Mahatmas. So the Mahatmas who practice pure devotional service, they achieve the Supreme Lord. Mamupetya. Then after achieving the Supreme Lord, Punarjanma Naiti. Punarjanma Dukkalayam Ashashvatam. No. They don't. No. Napnuvanti. So the Mahatmas, they don't have to take birth once again in this material world which is full of miseries and temporary, but they achieve the supreme perfection and the supreme goal. Samsiddhim Paramangati. So here, Prabhupada is writing the Mahatmas receive transcendental messages from the realized devotees and thus gradually develop devotional service in Krishna consciousness. So how to become Mahatma? Of course, that comes later on in the 9th chapter also. But one becomes Mahatma by receiving message from the right source. When one hears the message from the Mahatmas, then one can become Mahatma and thus develop devotional service and achieve the supreme destination. Okay, fine. And then, but all other places, if one achieves the Supreme Lord, one doesn't have to come back. But if one achieves any other place, what happens? Brahma bhuvana loka punaravartin arjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are place of misery. When repeated birth and death take place, but one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. So you can see Krishna is giving so many assurances throughout the Gita. In the previous verse also he had said, Mamupetya Punarjanma. So one will not achieve birth again. Here again he says, Mamupetya Punarjanma Navid. So many assurances Krishna is giving. Once one has gone, one doesn't have to return. But if one goes to any other place in the material world up to Brahmaloka, one will have to come back to this material world. Okay, so that's the end of this section on pure devotional service. Prabhupada's lecture, please read.
Vrindavan consciousness. For example, my residence is at Vrindavan. That is the place of Krishna, where Krishna advented himself. So now I am in America, in your country. But that does not mean I am out of Vrindavan. Because if I think of Krishna always, it is as good as being in Vrindavan. I am in New York, in this apartment, but my consciousness is there in Vrindavan. Krishna consciousness means you already live with Krishna in his spiritual planet. You simply have to wait to give up this body.
Right, very interesting. So one can be in the spiritual world in Vrindavan, even while living in the material worlds. It is based on consciousness. Krishna consciousness means you already live with Krishna in his spiritual planets. So how to create this Vrindavan consciousness even while living in this material world? Srila Prabhupada did say all my temples are in Vaikuntha, Vrindavan. So how to create this Vrindavan consciousness? Bolo? By hearing and chanting about myself. Hearing and chanting about Krishna. Okay, what else?
Services, doing services for Krishna, for the pleasure of Krishna.
Yes, doing services for the pleasure of Krishna. Good. Yes, Prabhu? Yes, they carry in the heart Krishna. So yes, association with devotees. Yes.
Following the instruction of pure devotee,
Following the instructions of the previous
Spiritual
acharyas.
master.
Previous acharyas. Good.
By hearing Krishna Katha. Living our life with Krishna in the center.
Okay, living our life with Krishna in the center. What does it mean? You put Krishna deity in the center and then you say.
No, all our activities should revolve around for the pleasure of the Lord.
All the activities should be for the pleasure of Krishna. That means we should know what Krishna wants, what will please Krishna, and do only those activities. Online, somebody is trying to say something, I think.
By Krishna Katha.
Yes, by hearing Krishna Katha, by speaking Krishna Katha, that's correct. What is one of the important landmark qualities of Vrindavan, the spiritual world? Yes, to love Krishna, that's correct. Yes?
Consciousness.
Somebody said it. Yes, no envy, no envy. Spiritual world, there is no envy. Envy is conspicuous by its absence in the spiritual world. Okay, so we have to endeavor to give up that envy. Sadhu Chidambaram, you have something?
Big point that whatever Susmit Prabhu told, that whatever in Vrindavan, whatever gopis, gopas, and they're doing for only for the pleasure of Krishna.
Yes, only for the pleasure of Krishna. And so therefore, no envy amongst devotees. Everyone is trying to simply serve others. So not that I want things for myself, let the others starve, not like that. But everyone is thinking how to serve, how to please. Huh? Right, so that's how even while staying in the material world, we can create Vrindavan. Okay, read this.
Vrindavan consciousness. That is our Krishna conscious life. Krishna wants it. I must do it. I will not do anything for me. That is Vrindavan. All the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they are trying to fulfill the Krishna's desire. The cowherd boys, the calves, the cows, the trees, the flowers, the water, the gopis, the elderly inhabitants, Mother Yashoda, Nanda, they are all engaged in fulfilling Krishna's desire. That is Vrindavan. So you can turn this material world into Vrindavan, provided you agree to fulfill the desires of Krishna. That is Vrindavan.
Yes, agree to fulfill desires of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so we'll take a break and continue. One practices pure devotional service, one can go back to the spiritual world. So then what are the characteristics of the spiritual world and the material world that he's describing? 17th verse. Sahasra yuga paryantam aharyat brahmano vidu ratram yuga sahasrantam teho ratra vido janaha. By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day. And such also is the duration of his night. So this is calculation of Brahma's day. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam. So this is Sahasra Yuga. 1,000 Divya Yugas. What is duration of one Divya Yuga? So that is 43 lakhs of years. That's one Divya Yuga. So 1,000 into that. How much? $4 billion, no? Comes to 4 billion. So that is duration of day. Then same duration of nights. So like that, 30 days, then 12 months a year, like that, 100 years. So the whole calculation Prabhupada has done, and he has given the final figure. These 100 years by earth calculations total to 311 trillion and 40 billion earth years. And then Prabhupada writes something amazing after that. By these calculations, the life of Brahma seems fantastic and interminable. But from the viewpoint of eternity, it is as brief as a lightning flash. So Brahma's life is what? Lightning flash. Then what is our life? Lightning flash is like that, correct? Finished. That is Brahma's life. And what is our life? So Srila Prabhupada explains in his lectures that time is very relative. So he gives example of the insects that come during Diwali time, Diwali Poka. So small insects, they come near the lights. See? So they are born in the evening, then they grow, they get married, they produce children. Everything takes place in our one night, and early morning, millions of them are dead. You must have seen us on staircases and all. They're 100 years finished. So for them, if they hear about our life, they will think, oh, such a long life. But then what is our life in comparison to demigod's life? Our 6 months is 12 hours. They are 12 hours, our 6 months. And like that, they live for, yes, they are 100 years, but that will be how much in terms of our years? Any case, whatever. So you see, it's all very relative. And from the viewpoint of Mahavishnu, even Brahma's life is like lightning flash. Because for Mahavishnu, what is Brahma's life? Yes. Exhalation, the universe comes out, Brahma is born, and when he inhales, Brahma's life finished. So how much time it takes? One breath. That is Brahma's life. So therefore, further on, Prabhupada says, in the causal ocean, there are innumerable Brahmas rising and disappearing like bubbles in the Atlantic. Brahma and his creation are all part of the material universe, and therefore they are in constant flux. Okay, 18. Avyakta vyaktaya sarvaha prabhavantyah ragame ratri agame pradiyante tatraiva akya vyakta sanyake. At the beginning of Brahma's day, all living entities become manifest from the unmanifest state, and then after, when the night falls, they are merged into the unmanifest again. 19. Bhutagrama sa evayam bhutva bhutva praliyate ratriagame vasha partha prabhavatyah ragame. Again and again, when Brahma's day arrives, all living entities come into being, and with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. So Srila Prabhupada used this phrase very often, bhutva bhutva praliyate, to indicate the temporary nature of material existence. So Prabhupada writes, during the daytime of Brahma, they can exhibit their activities on higher and lower planets in this material world. But at the coming of Brahma's night, they're all annihilated. Here it said what? Ratri agame avashaha. Avashaha. Avasha means what? Definitely, helplessly. Prabhupada in the translation, he translates it as helplessly. Helplessly annihilated. Cannot avoid. Even if one says, no, I want to live more, this, that, no. I have to get out. Ultimately, when Brahma's life is finished, they're all annihilated and remain unmanifest for millions and millions of years. So the important point to note is that Srila Prabhupada very often use this to indicate the temporary nature of material existence. But unfortunately, not understanding the temporary nature of material existence, one takes this short lifespan, such a short lifespan. And especially in Kali Yuga, what life? But one takes it so seriously. So one thinks, no, I have such a long lifespan to live and enjoy. What is there? So if one just understands this, then one will not take material existence so seriously. So even as devotees, sometimes we may tend to become attached to so many material things, including pose, positions, material facilities, so many things one can get attached to even as devotees. What this person said, what that person did, what he did, So all these things one tends to take it seriously. But if one just understands this, what is the value of it? Prabhupada told the story of Lomas Rishi. Everyone knows the story of Lomas Rishi. What was his lifespan? What one hair would fall off in one day of Brahma, correct? So what a long lifespan he had. And yet Narad Muni asked him, why don't you build a kutia? What he said? Such a short lifespan, what to build? So then what to speak of our life? So therefore, we have to understand this material existence, so temporary, so short, anytime it can be finished. So therefore, one has to take Krishna consciousness very seriously and not take these temporary things of the material world and temporary life too seriously. And therefore, Prabhupada further down the purport, he says, but those intelligent persons who take to Krishna consciousness use the human life fully in the devotional service of the Lord, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thus they transfer themselves even in this life to the spiritual planet of Krishna and become eternally blissful there, not being subject to such rebirths. And think about it, if you knew 100% you're going to die tomorrow, and today somebody insults you, how seriously would you take that? Who cares? But that's the reality. I don't know whether I'm going to live tomorrow, right? Anybody's guarantee yet? No, there's no guarantee. That's reality. And if not tomorrow, maybe after a few days more. What? Big deal. But it's only because of not realizing this fact that one takes all the temporary things of this world so seriously. Of course, we have to do our duties. The philosophy should not make us irresponsible. Not that anyways I'm going to die, so give up the responsibility also. No, not like that. So one has to do one's responsibility properly, because especially for us as devotees, our responsibility is meant for what? Our responsibilities, our services are meant for what? Huh? Yes, they're meant for pleasing Krishna, and they will lead us to eternal life. So therefore, we definitely have to take our devotional service seriously, but things on the material platform, we don't have to. Okay, fine. Now he describes about the spiritual world. Parastasmatu bhavanyo vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha yasa sarveshu bhuteshu nashatsu na vinashyati. Yet there's another unmanifest nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifest and unmanifest matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. So that is spiritual world. 21. Avyakto akshara iti yuktas tammahu paramam gatim yam prapya na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. So this is the third time in the chapter Krishna is saying this. Yam prapya na nivartante tadhama param. Third time, right in this chapter. Right. So what are the qualities of the spiritual world? Avyakta akshara. Avyakta means unmanifested. Akshara means infallible. That which the Vedantas describe as unmanifest and infallible, that which is known as the supreme destination, that place from which, having attained it, one never returns, that is my supreme abode. Okay, so Srila Prabhupada, speaking on these verses, Srila Prabhupada would often say that the spiritual world is not a myth. The spiritual world is reality. Krishna is saying here that spiritual abode exists. So one needs to have faith. In the purport, Prabhupada is basically describing Golok Vrindavan based on the Brahma Samhita. 22. So now how one can achieve that spiritual abode? Purusha sa para partha bhaktya labhyastva ananyaya yasyantastani bhutani yena sarvam idam tatam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Bhaktya labhyastva ananyaya. Ananya bhakti, unalloyed devotion. Although he is present in his abode, he is all-pervading and everything is situated within him. Goloka eva nivasati akhilatma bhuta. So even though he's in Golok Vrindavan, he's present everywhere in all the living beings. Okay. So Srila Prabhupada writes in the second paragraph, to enter Krishna's supreme abode or the innumerable Vaikuntha planets is possible only by bhakti, devotional service, as clearly indicated here by the word bhaktya. No other process can help one attain that supreme abode. Okay. Okay, that's the end of this section, comparing the material and the spiritual worlds. Huh?
Personality of Godhead. So sometimes the like outsiders may take advantage of this verse. Although we have sufficient verses which Krishna says, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. But when Krishna says Supreme, he refers to Supreme Personality as a third person, how we should understand these verses?
So we already said that. So sometimes he's referring to Paramatma. And here Purusha sa Parapartha. So Purusha, the Supreme Personality. So here he may, so I suppose he's referring to Lord Vishnu in Vaikuntha. Yeah, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So the various Vishnu forms in the Vaikuntha Loka. So he's referring to all of them. Of course, you can see how Prabhupada he brings it to Golok Vrindavan. Well, that's Prabhupada's mood. So yes, so that's what he told in the previous section, right? What was previous section? Pure devotional service. In the previous section, he said, by performing pure devotional service, one will go back to the spiritual abode and will not return back to this material world. So now he's giving details of the spiritual world and the material world.
Just little outside.
How much outside?
Whatever we heard in lecture.
Okay.
Just like Mahavishnu is taking breathing, inhaling and exhaling. So is there any time he exhale and inhale? His time bound or eternally he is exhaling and inhaling. Like we also exhale and inhale. So there is some time bound, there is some count given to us.
Actually, you meant to say life.
Life.
Mahavishnu
is either in life it is there because it is starting to inhale and exhale.
So Mahavishnu is Vishnu, na? He's Vishnu.
Inhale and exhale, why it is happening to him? No. Why he is exhaling and inhaling? Why it is there? Because
he's asking why is he inhaling and exhaling? Because he can live without inhaling, exhaling. So now my question to you is, does Krishna also inhale, exhale?
Controlled by him. He is not bound by that exhale and inhale.
So then why Krishna has to do this Gopalan? Why he has to go to the pasturing grounds with the cows?
That is his Leela. He want to.
That is his Leela. That is the answer. He's Swarat. But he's doing all that. So if he wants, he can inhale, exhale. What is the problem? And while inhaling, exhaling, he's creating all the universes. So something tangible is being done by inhaling, exhaling. See, we cannot question everything what the Lord does. He is Swarat. If he wants, he'll inhale. If he wants, he won't inhale also. He doesn't have any problem. We'll be in problem. So if you ask why Krishna does like this, why Krishna puts only peacock feather? Why not some other bird's feather? Why he plays only flute? There's no answer to all this. Yes, he is Swarat. Okay. Okay, now the last section, 23 to 28, the supremacy of devotion in attaining the Supreme. So because in the last verse he said, how one can attain the Supreme? Bhaktya labhyastva ananyaya. Only by pure unalloyed devotional service one can attain the Supreme. So now he's describing the supremacy of devotional service in comparison to other paths. 23. Yatra kale tvanavrittim avrittim chaiva yoginaha prayata yanti tam kalam vakshyami bharatarshabha. O best of the Bharatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which passing away from this world, the yogi does or does not come back. Purport.
The unalloyed devotees of the Supreme Lord, who are totally surrendered souls, do not care when they leave their bodies or by what method. They leave everything in Krishna's hand and so easily and happily return to Godhead. But those who are not unalloyed devotees, who depend instead on such methods of spiritual realization as Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Hatha Yoga, must leave the body at a suitable time in order to be sure of whether or not they will return to the world of birth and death. If the yogi is perfect, he can select the time and situation for living this material world. But if he is not so expert, his success depends on his accidentally passing away at a certain suitable time. The suitable times at which one passes away and does not come back are explained by the Lord in the next verse. According to Acharya Baldev Vidyabhushan, the Sanskrit word kala here used herein refers to the presiding deity of time.
So Prabhupada clarifies right in the beginning. So though Krishna is now going to speak about these two times of the yogi passing away, but Prabhupada is clarifying right in the beginning, all this is not relevant for devotees, because the devotees just depend upon the Supreme Lord and happily and easily go back to Godhead. So they're not dependent on all these different time of leaving the body, how they leave the body, were auspicious, inauspicious. No. For devotee, everything is auspicious and he just depends on the Supreme Lord. But in any case, Krishna is describing this just to compare the paths of bhakti to the other paths. So on the path of devotional service, as we have said it many times, the path of bhakti is a path of grace. So we are dependent on mercy. But the other yogis, then they have to do all this calculation because they are dependent more on their own endeavor. So then they have to do all this calculation. Oh, this is auspicious time, this is inauspicious time, so this, that, so all that. Right. So this is the greatness of bhakti. So So because a devotee is dependent on the Supreme Lord, then the Supreme Lord, whatever he does is auspicious for the devotee. And that's the glory of devotional service over the other paths. So in any case, so we will just read these two different paths. So these two paths are called as Devayana and Pitriyana. Devayana is the path of light and Pitriyana is the path of darkness. 24. Agni Jyotir Aham Agni Jyotir Aha Shukla Shanmasa Uttarayanam Tatra Prayata Gachanti Brahma Brahma Vido Janaha. Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain that Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery god, in the light, at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. So this is some specific times at which, by which when one leaves, then the result will be one will achieve the Supreme Brahman. And then, of course, then even if one achieves the Brahma Jyoti, but still we know it's a very long life, almost like an eternal life, even though later one may have to come back, but still it's almost like an eternal life. So as, okay, read the purport.
When fire, light, day, and fortnight of the moon are mentioned, it is to be understood that over all of them there are various presiding deities who make arrangements for the passage of the soul.
Okay, so all these are described in the second canto of the Bhagavatam, the second chapter of the second canto. So these details are described how the yogi, he goes through different destinations as he's attaining liberation. So he goes through different destinations. And so all these are different destinations having different presiding deities. Okay.
At the time of death, the mind carries one on the path of a new life. If one leaves the body at the time designated above, either accidentally or by arrangement, it is possible for him to attain the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Mystics who are advanced in yoga system can arrange the time and place to leave the body. Others have no control. By accident, they leave at an auspicious moment. Then they will not return to the cycle of birth and death. But otherwise, there is every possibility that they will have to return. However, for the pure devotee in Krishna consciousness, there is no fear of returning, whether he leaves the body at an auspicious or inauspicious moment, by accident or arrangement.
Okay, so another point is here it said Brahma Vido Janaha. So this is only applicable to whom? Brahma Vidaha, the knowers of Brahman. It is not applicable to Tom, Dick, and Harry. Not that any person leaves at this time, oh, he'll go to Brahma Jyoti, he'll get liberation. No, not like that. This is only applicable to those who are on the spiritual paths, who know the Brahman. Brahma Vidaha Janaha. Okay, we'll finish it and then take. 25. Dhumo Ratristata Krishna Shanmasa Dakshinayanam Tatra Chandra Masam Jyotir Yogi Prapya Nivartate. So this is Pitriyana, the mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet, but again comes back. So he goes to the heavenly planets, but then that is temporary life, he'll have to come back. Okay. Now 26. Shukla Krishne Gati Yete Jagata Shashvate Mate Ekaya Yatyana Vrittim Anyaya Vartate Punaha. According to Vedic opinion, there are two ways of passing from the world, one in light, one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back, but when one passes in darkness, he returns. Okay, 27. Naite Shruti Partha Jana. Wait, what is this? Naite Shri Partha Janan Yogi Muyyanti Kashana Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Yogo Yukto Bhavarjuna. Although the devotees know these two paths, O Arjuna, they are never bewildered. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion. Purport.
Krishna is here advising Arjuna that he should not be disturbed by the different parts the soul can take when leaving the material world. A devotee of the Supreme Lord should not worry whether he will depart by arrangement or by accident. The devotee should be firmly established in Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna. He should know that concern over either of these two paths is troublesome. The best way to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness is to be always doubted in his service, and this will make one's path to the spiritual kingdom safe, certain, and direct. The word Yoga Yukta is especially significant in this verse. One who is firm in yoga is constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness in all his activities. Sri Rupa Goswami advises, Anasaktasya Vishayan Yataharam Upayunjata. One should be unattached in material affairs and do everything in Krishna consciousness. By this system, which is called Yukta Vairagya, one attains perfection. Therefore, the devotee is not disturbed by these descriptions because he knows that his passage to the supreme abode is guaranteed by devotional service.
Yes. Okay, a devotee of the Supreme Lord should not worry whether he will depart by arrangement or by accident. So that is devotee's faith. He simply depends on the Supreme Lord. So sometimes questions are asked. So sometimes we find devotees die in accidents. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he died in a road accident. There were some devotees who died in a plane crash. So many things like that happen. And so sometimes devotees ask, oh, why is inauspicious death? No, devotee doesn't matter, auspicious, inauspicious. So that's what Prabhupada is explaining here. Ultimately, Krishna takes care, and whatever Krishna does is best for the devotee. So that's so the best way is to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness. The best way to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness is to be always dovital in his service, and this will make one's path to the spiritual kingdom safe, certain, and direct. Safe, certain, direct. So we have to do our business. Our business is what? Engage in Krishna service. That's all. And how one will pass away, all that Krishna will see. And then the last verse, which is again glorifying the path of devotional service. Vedeshu yajñeshu tapasu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pradishtam atyeti tat sarvamidam viditva yogi param sthanam upeti chadyam. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode. So, Srila Prabhupada gives an analogy in this connection. Which one? Actually, two analogies Prabhupada gives. Huh?
Cat catching mouse.
Huh? Somebody is saying something online.
Cat is catching mouse as well as kitten.
उससे क्या होता है? Okay, that's correct. By worshipping Krishna, everyone will be satisfied. That is the analogy. So here Krishna is saying, if one takes to devotional service, one is understood to have performed all the other pious activities, all the other paths. Correct. Yeah. So if somebody who's High Court judge, then there's no need to ask him, did you pass 10th standard? Understood how he became High Court judge. So similarly, because Bhakti Yoga is topmost, so therefore one who has come to the path of Bhakti Yoga is understood to have performed all the other activities which are on the lower rungs. It's understood that he has performed all of them. Okay, we can read the purport. It's good. Some of the mic doesn't go this side. These three are bereft.
This verse is summation of the seventh.
So you read two paragraphs and then give to Nayak Sakapur.
This verse is the summation of the 7th and 8th chapter, which particularly deals with Krishna consciousness and devotional service. One has to study the Vedas under the guidance of the spiritual master and undergo many austerities and penances while living under his care. A brahmachari has to live in the home of the spiritual master just like a servant, and he must beg alms from the door to door and bring them to the spiritual master. He takes food only under the master's order, and if the master neglects to call the students for the food that day, the student fast. These are some of the Vedic principles for observing brahmacharya. After the student studies the Vedas under the master for some time, at least from the age 5 to 20, he becomes a man of perfect character. Study of the Veda is not meant for the recreation of the armchair speculators, but for the formation of character.
Okay, so this is the wonderful statement which we often quote. Study of the Vedas is not meant for the recreation of armchair speculators, but for the formation of character. And so recreation of armchair speculators. So armchair speculators means what? So they're sitting in armchairs, relaxed, with some chai and cigarettes, and they're discussing Vedanta. Now, what they'll understand Vedanta with chai and cigarette? What they'll understand? So that is the meaning of. So that is what these sometimes people do. In Amritsar, Prabhupada went to this Vedanta Sammelan. So people do all these funny things. So they're discussing Vedanta, but there's no character. So what they'll understand? So therefore, so the main thing is by studying the Shastras, there must be transformation. There must be transformation, formation of character. That is the ultimate purpose. Otherwise, we are not doing an academic study here. Our purpose is not simply an academic study to get some degree or whatever. That's not our purpose. The purpose is to get the knowledge, apply within our lives, and bring about what? Transformation, character. So that is what should happen. Continue.
After this training, the brahmachari is allowed to enter into householder life and marry. When he is a householder, he has to perform many sacrifices so that he may achieve further enlightenment. He must also give charity according to the country, time, and candidate, discriminating among charity in goodness, in passion, in ignorance, as described in Bhagavad Gita. Then, after retiring from the household life, upon accepting the order of Vanprastha, he undergoes severe penances, living in forest, dressing with tree bark, not shaving, etc. By carrying out the order of the brahmacharya, householder life, Vanprastha, and finally sannyas, one becomes elevated to the perfectional stage of life. Some are then elevated to the heavenly kingdoms, and when they becomes even more advanced, they are liberated in the spiritual sky, either in the impersonal Brahmajyoti or in the Vaikuntha planet or Krishna Loka. This is the path outlined by the Vedic literatures.
The beauty of Krishna consciousness, however, is that by one stroke, by engaging in devotional service, one can surpass all the rituals of the different orders of life. The word idam viditva indicate that one should understand the instruction given by Sri Krishna in this chapter and the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. One should try to understand the chapters not by scholarship or by mental speculation, but by hearing them in association with the devotees. Chapter 7 through 12 are the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. The first 6 and the last 6 chapters are like coverings of the middle 6 chapters, which are especially protected by the Lord. If one is fortunate enough to understand Bhagavad Gita, especially these middle 6 chapters in the association of devotees, then his life at once becomes glorified beyond all penance, sacrifice, charity, speculations, etc. For one can achieve all the results of these activities simply by Krishna consciousness. One who has a little faith in Bhagavad Gita should learn Bhagavad Gita from a devotee, because in the beginning of the 4th chapter, it is stated clearly that Bhagavad Gita can be understood only by devotees. No one else can perfectly understand the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. One should therefore learn Bhagavad Gita from a devotee of Krishna, not from mental speculators. This is a sign of faith. When one searches for a devotee and fortunately gets a devotee's association, one actually begins to study and understand Bhagavad Gita. By advancement in the association of devotee, one is placed in devotional service, and this service dispels all one's misgivings about Krishna or God and Krishna's activities from pastimes, names, and other features. After these misgivings have been perfectly cleared away, one becomes fixed in one study. Then one relishes the study of Bhagavad Gita and attend the state of feelings, always Krishna conscious. In the advanced stage, one falls completely in love with Krishna. This highest perfectional stage of life enables the devotee to be transferred to Krishna's abode in the spiritual sky, Golok Vrindavan, where the devotee becomes eternally happy.
Happy.
Thus end the Bhakti Vedanta purpose to the 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of attaining the Supreme Bhagavad Gita 9, the most confidential knowledge. अच्छा वो आगे आ गया थोड़ा नेक्स्ट और एक स्टेटमेंट
Okay, Srila Prabhupada की जय, श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय. हाँ, बोलो क्या है? Those who select. That means those who give up in the auspicious time. If they give up the auspicious time, they go to Brahma Jyoti. Who? That's what Prabhupada is writing in the purport.
Yes.
So, because these are yogis, these are not bhaktas.
And like if we see before this connects this section, Krishna describes ultimate aim Bhagavad Dham. Then why this other aims?
He's comparing, na? That's what the title of the section, na?
A comparison of spiritual and material.
So this is comparing or showing the supremacy of bhakti over the other paths. So only by bhakti one can attain the supreme abode of the Lord. But by other paths, then the yogis have to select the particular time. And if it is that auspicious time, then they can go to the Brahma Jyoti. If it is not auspicious time, then they can go at the most to heavenly planets, then they have to come back. So the yogis have to consider all these other factors. But the devotees, they depend on the Supreme Lord, and then Krishna takes.
One question, if like we see in the life of Prabhupada, that like in 1977 when Prabhupada was ill, so many times they went to Rishikesh. So Prabhupada was asking them, come to Vrindavan immediately, because he wanted to leave body in Vrindavan. And although we know from philosophy, and wherever he would have left the body, it would have been. So how to understand this pastime of Prabhupada, that when Prabhupada himself insisting ki, no, I want to leave my body in Vrindavan only. He went to even London also. Then from London he came back because he was again ill. And
yeah, so I mean that was Srila Prabhupada's choice, that he wanted to leave his body in Vrindavan, which is like his eternal home. So that was his desire. And of course, but still, even though that was his desire, we can see that how till the last moment he was in the preaching mood. So even when he was so sick, he wanted to go to US and all that, but then he went only up to London. He came back. He was telling devotees to arrange buses for Sankirtan. He wanted to go in bus. So many things. So we can see till the last moment, Srila Prabhupada was basically in the preaching mood, in the mood of doing his service for his spiritual master. And so, of course, Vrindavan, that was his desire. So that he wants to live in Vrindavan, which is the most holiest of holy places. But of course, we know that Srila Prabhupada, ultimately, he created Vrindavan everywhere.
Like we see from Bhishmadev's life also, that he was also waiting for this Uttarayan to come. Although Vishwanath Chakravarti gives another
so
meaning.
basically he was waiting for Krishna to come.
He gives the Uttarayan meaning as Krishna. But when we see such things, like, so should we infer it as like a leela of their devotees, or?
Yeah, so that was his desire. And I think so we have to leave it at that. We can't further analyze that desire as to why. But of course, we know that ultimately, as Srila Prabhupada himself has written in the purport, today we were reading.
Accidentally or arrangement.
That is one thing. And also in the purport of the 14th verse, Prabhupada has written, quoting Advaita Acharya.
Advaita Acharya said Lord Chaitanya,
Wherever you are, there's Vrindavan. And so that same thing applies for the pure devotee also. Wherever he is, there is Vrindavan. But still, Srila Prabhupada, he wanted to live in Vrindavan because it is his eternal home. That's my understanding, and that's all what I can say. But of course, at the same time, we know His Holiness Bhakti Tirth Maharaj, he wanted to give up his body in Gita Nagari because he wanted to show that wherever Prabhupada came, that is Vrindavan. Yeah, that's another thing. That's another thing. But the main thing is he wanted to show that because Srila Prabhupada came to Gita Nagari, that place is as good as Vrindavan. So that's a fact. So wherever Srila Prabhupada. Mahapurna, whatever. Correct. Bolo.
So in text 24, you are discussing that, Brahma Vido. You're discussing that this applies for person who is Brahma Vido, who know Supreme Brahman. But Prabhuji, in this in purport, if you can see, mystics who have advanced in yoga practice can arrange the time and place to leave the body.
Like Bhishma there.
Others have no control. If by accident they leave at an auspicious moment, then they will not return to the cycle of birth and death. But you said, we were discussing.
Others means those who are not advanced. So you read properly. So first he says those who are advanced can choose, and others means those who are not advanced. Those are not advanced mystics. Those are not advanced yogis. It's still referring to yogis only. Others does not mean everyone. Others still means other mystics. The advanced can choose. Others who are not so advanced, then they have to depend on destiny.
All right.
Anything else?
What about the other people, those who die in the hospitals or in outside at any time?
Everything, karmana, daiva netrena, everything happens by karma. Online, any questions? Because the time is up.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I don't know how much correct it is, but somewhere I have heard that even Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to refer astrology for some aspect. I'm not very sure in case if you have.
But he gave up astrology. He was such a great scholar in astrology, therefore he got the title Siddhanta because he was scholar in Surya Siddhanta. And he gave it up.
Okay. Because somewhere I do not know the reference, but somewhere I've heard that for starting mathas or for some activity he referred some aspect of astrology.
Okay, maybe, I don't know.
Beginning of because I do not know exact reference.
So that's what I also don't know, you don't know. So what's the point in talking?
Yeah, yes. I just wanted to understand that aspect of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
I don't know.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Samved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you. Sushmit, just wait. Okay, so when is the next class?